Hey y'all, my name is Moon the Storyteller. Welcome to my new video series, The Comic Book Noob, where health, culture, and comics come together. In celebration of Juneteenth, I invited a few of my favorite creatives to talk about our hair, black hair, in the comics. For hundreds of years, the way black hair naturally grows from our scalp has been viewed as inferior. However, did you know that in pre colonial times and before the transatlantic slave trade, our hair, just like our names, was an extension of our past, present, and future? There were hairstyles for every emotion, occasion, and celebration, which resulted in thousands of variations, in thousands of textures, and thousands of beautiful expressions. Unfortunately, this all changed when colonizers invaded our homes and uprooted our ancestors in every way imaginable. And as a result, our hair, black hair, for a time, lost its way. Let's talk about it. Welcome to episode 3 of Comic Book Noob, where health, culture, and comics comes together. So for this month, I wanted to do something special in celebration of Juneteenth. We are talking about our hair, black hair in the comic books. So I've invited some really incredible creatives that I'm just so in love with their work. And so let's jump right into it. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves and tell us a little bit about what you're into right now, what you're doing. Janice, let's start with you.
Oh, okay. I'm Janice Denny, and I'm a writer. Wish I could draw like Lee here, but never have been able to do that sort of thing. So I'm a writer, and I've written 3 comic books so far. Um, the Girl from Zyrath is the first issue 1 in the Ursa Defense League series, and number 2 is Firebird, and number 3 is Star Angel. So those are my 3 characters, and they are called the Ursa Defense League, and they're from the Ursa Galaxy. Uh, and I don't know if you want me to go into detail, but I mean
Not
that's
yet.
just
Not yet.
okay.
Not yet. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Janice. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
I've read issue 1 and 2, and I fell in love. I fell in love. So, all right, Lee, you are up next.
Hey, I'm Lee Juaso, owner of JuasoGraphics.com, home of Black Anime Streetwear, where we spread artistry and entrepreneurship across our community of artists. Also, current writer of Aiti, a fantasy comic about the Haitian Revolution and some things involving Caribbean mythology.
Deep. That's deep. That last sentence. I gotta go back and when I replay it, I gotta go back and listen to it. But yes, Lee, you doing a whole lot. You a whole lot. Can't wait to get into it. And of course, Midnight Comics. All right, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, well, I'm Lloyd.
And Natasha,
She's with
Midnight
Midnight Comics,
Comics.
and we are the creators of several stories.
Several characters.
um, we have our Tales from Midnight series, where we have quite a few characters: Soul, Blue Morpho,
Butterfly, Edmani,
the Gray,
and the Gray.
As well as our manga series, The Unbeloved. So yeah, we both write all of them except for Edmani.
I don't
That's
like
her baby.
Unbeloved.
So, but yeah, creators of several stories, 8 different titles at the moment.
Yes, and I was before we press record it before I pressed record, I was saying that I need to catch up with your stuff too because you're putting out a lot, and I love it. I love having that feeling of I need to catch up, So, all right, so let's jump right into it. I wanted to start this conversation off with a page I really resonated with me when I was reading this particular comic book called Hot Comb by Ebony Flowers. This was written a few years back. It's available on Amazon. Um, but what really drew my attention, what really captured kind of this conversation in a nutshell is this page in particular. So in this page, a young, I'm not quite sure if this is kind of an autobiography of her early life, But if it is, let's just say it is a young Ebony is being bullied because of her hair. And you can see the bullies are also Black. And you can see they're saying, calling her buckshots and BDBs. And this just kind of captures what many of us have gone through when it comes to our hair, whether we have really negative moments or really positive moments. But for me, I had negative moments in my childhood when it came to my hair. Um, just to share, my hair is a different texture than a lot was a different texture than a lot of the Black kids around me. So whenever my mother pressed my hair, I was always called white. And for a Black girl, that's not a compliment. That's not being called white is not a compliment. And it's not because it's a racist comment, but it's basically stripping my identity away as a Black girl, and that does something to you. And eventually, I grew out of this, but I really had a complex with my hair for a very, very long time. So I wanted to jump, kind of get your thoughts on this. What was, your earliest memories of your hair? Let's start with Lee.
I had hair, and habitually it was cut bald until I was like 12, because I did a movie where I had to have it be bigger because it was in the 70s. And uh, I didn't really have any intimate relationship with my hair until it got really long and started nodding on its own and stuff. And then my family members would be like, "You trying to get dreads? You need to do something with your hair. Why you ain't washing your hair?" And it made me realize to treat myself better by treating my hair better and treating my body better, which until then I had not known to do. So my hair made me more conscious of how to treat myself better as opposed to toughing out everything in life.
That's interesting. That's interesting. The way you learned that. Basically, are you saying that your hair became an extension of you and your well-being and your mental health, and maybe even just maybe at a young age just your physical health? It was just an extension of all that.
Yeah, my hair made me realize that I have to play a part in taking care of myself and recognizing myself. I didn't care about taking care of myself for a long time. I cared about taking care of the people around me.
That's interesting. Interesting. What about you, Lloyd and Tosh? What about you? What was your earliest memories of your hair?
Well, so I didn't always live in Georgia. I used to live in Kentucky when I was little, and you didn't really see a lot of us there. Especially there was no other Black boys with long hair, so I used to get called a girl a lot because I had long hair. And it was just like, dag, like this is, okay. I used to wear braids. I didn't always have locks, so I had braids back then. I never really wore my hair out in a fro like that. And so yeah, that was the thing they used to pick on me. Oh, it's, Lloyd's a little girl. So nobody was used to, which was surprising. Again, there was not a lot of Black kids with long hair, and that transitioned over to when we moved to Georgia eventually. It was me and one other kid. It was a white kid in class. His name was Tony. I remember he also had long hair, so I found solace in that. Like, other boys have long hair, cool. But I never saw anybody else like me until like middle school or high school actually actually wear hair. And during that point, a lot more people were getting locks then because Lil Wayne was the hot thing at the time, and everybody was trying to do that. So it was cool to see other people finally start to grow their hair out more commonly. But at the time, it was just so rare, and I got picked on a lot. But it was just like, so what? Y'all gonna find, even if I cut my hair, you're gonna find something else to pick on me about. I'm gonna keep it because it's me. Whatever. I've never had a haircut before, so y'all not gonna make me cut my hair now because you don't like it or whatever your comments are. So yeah.
And that's interesting that you had a very strong attachment to your hair at a young age. Was that instilled in you from your parents?
No, my parents just gave us the choice. So gave me the choice, like, hey, they never gave us a haircut or never gave me a haircut. I'm the only boy. Never gave me a haircut, and it was like, we'll wait until you're 5 and see what you decide. Then I was like, keep doing my hair. I like it, and just I never wanted to do it. Never want the haircut at all. So it was just like, I'm never going to do it until I start balding or something. Then maybe I'll.
And you, Tosh, what about you?
Well, first I'll say It's funny because I was laughing at him because him talking about finally seeing boys with long hair. One of the first boys he saw when he was younger with long hair was my little brother, actually. So it's always funny. My brother has had locks his entire life, so he's also gone through being called a girl. He got kicked out of his private school because he was one of the only black boys he was the only black boy there with dreadlocks. But my brother's locks inspired him to get locks, and so by the time we met, he had locks.
Yeah.
But for me, of course, I'm on the exact opposite side of the spectrum from you, Carla, where I have the thicker, the black hair, and so I would get made fun of for my hair being nappy or for having the beads in the back of my hair. And so when I was little, my mother permed my hair, like a lot of us, of course. And I always felt like I never really retained the texture I had as a child after I went back natural. And then even when I did go back natural in college, it was still a hard transition because a lot of people, if you like if I have my hair like this, it'd be like, you don't comb your hair? You don't do something with your hair? And so that's something I struggled with even after we first had our kids, because people would say that about my daughter. Are you going to comb her hair? I'm like, her hair is combed. It's in an afro. So that was something we just had to fight through, each of us, because all my kids have hair too. All three of our kids have a lot of hair, and it's all natural. People will still be like, you don't comb their hair?
What are you
gonna
gonna do with
something
that?
with it? What are you gonna do with that? And it's like, I did something. It's in a big afro puff. It's in an afro. Like it's in its natural state, exactly as it should be, and they look gorgeous. So I think because we instill in our kids a lot. Your hair is beautiful. You get to choose what you want to do with it. Don't let anybody tell you different.
This is what happened when we were younger, but how did that impact you as you grew up? Like Lee, you said that your hair became an extension of you, and the way you care for your hair, the way you care for your body. So, I see your hairs in locks as well. How has that played out in your life? Is that something that has stayed with you, that concept of your hair being an extension, or has it changed?
Now it's a reminder to be present and cognizant of myself instead of getting wrapped up with everything around me. So my hair is twisted. It's generally in an afro, but life doesn't always allow me to run around with an afro. And I don't always have the time to pick my hair out every day or detangle it or bask in the greatness of a twist out for like a week straight or moisturize it. So learning to put my hair in protective styles, or even allowing certain people to like touch my, has become a way to change the way that I relate with the world. And when my hair looks different or is braided different or is treated different, the results I get are different. If there's a lot of water in it, because I speak Spanish and I go to a lot of places, the cultural response that I get from different people can be different. Or like if it's all the way out and it's not as thick and I have like a Caribbean accent, or like Caribbean food, I'm from the Bahamas, like I get a different cultural experience again. And then if it's like twisted down like this, people think I have lots. And then some people will treat me like I'm a menace to society, and other people will treat me like I like ASAP Rocky. And both of those can be contextually factual. So yeah, it is the way that I experience society.
Oh, wow. So you said you speak Spanish. Is that your first language?
No, I learned it in school. I fell in love with a Puerto Rican girl when I was younger, and it left me on a path of destruction.
Oh man,
Because
Lord.
I would love to
I
know.
was I was asking because sometimes the being an Afro Latino, does impact the way we view our hair as well. So and that's a good segue into one of the examples I wanted to highlight. It's we're gonna go, I'm gonna do one mainstream example, and I want to talk about Vixen from DC. So again, I'm new to comics, so I just discovered this storyline last year. I believe she has one storyline that's dedicated to her in like 6 or 7 issues. I'm not quite sure, but I thought this was really interesting because her hair, if this is Africa, her hair is straight. And I didn't really I didn't really think too much about this until I started actually, diving into the comic, and I saw this page. So here she's walking into the village, and then everyone's hair looks completely different from hers, which I thought was very interesting. And I didn't have time to look to see who drew this. I would hope it was a black writer a black artist that they commissioned for this. I would hope that, but sometimes that's not the case. But regardless of what ethnicity that this artist had, I thought it was real interesting that they chose to have different textures of the kind of the protagonist, and then the village people, and it have a completely different texture. And that's not always the case in Africa. Sometimes their hair is to the floor. Sometimes their hair is straight. Sometimes their hair looks like this. It's real tight and curly. But I just thought it was interesting. So, is anyone familiar with Vixen? And if so, what are your initial thoughts when you see this interaction? Because obviously this is a village. I don't know if this is her village or but they're welcoming her.
Mhm.
And why do you think they chose her to have straight hair versus curly hair?
Okay, I'll speak to that part. I think a lot of the issue that we see in these comics, DC, Marvel, mainstream, what have you, is that is what is preferential to whoever that artist slash writer is, right? Obviously, they know that the people in this tribe are going to have a different texture or something. Then we don't all have the same texture, but they chose what they saw as appealing and brought that over and said, "Hey, look how much better her hair, how much better she looks in comparison to them." I'm gonna make a comment on this cover here. I feel like it was like, see, it's African. Her hair kind of matches the lion's mane, right? And so that's our excuse, right? And so it's it's kind of like, look, we're trying, right? And it's like, no, you could have done better. You could have done more, but you chose your personal preference instead of actually looking for what black textured hair really looks like. How does that hair work in the heat? Over, you know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Right? Her hair is just perfectly straight and just,
right.
That's not.
Let me
No.
tell you, as a woman who had a perm and had that style, it don't work.
Right.
So
right.
you just took what you wanted to see, added those features, and said, "Yep, don't complain. At least she's black." Like that's kind of what happens a lot of the time, instead of taking the time out again to really try. Because even like you said, there's so many different hairstyles and textures. Why we're everybody in that tribe is bald head. Everybody's just shaved like that.
No braids.
No braid.
No, no nothing. No.
I can't really recall a lot of it.
Like,
say that one more time.
It's been a while since I've read that series too, so I can't even recall half of it either.
Yeah, it's an older series. But I subscribe to their library, so I'm constantly finding new things to read, and I came across that, and I was like, why does her hair look like that? That was my first reaction. Like, is she in Africa? And why is her hair like that? Like, why is it in braids?
She is African.
Vixen is African.
Vixen
so why
is African, like Storm. She is African. She is a descendant of Anansi. Like, her talisman comes straight from Anansi and everything. So, like, when I was younger, I thought her hair looked cool because I had a perm and I wanted to cut my hair like that, and I did. But as I got older, I was like, it kind of doesn't.
It should be in braids. Like, if she about to fight, we protect our hair. Like, we when we go on vacation, we get a protective style. Most of us, or we wear it natural. But we're not going to sit there and perm it and do it if we know we're about to get into some action. You know what I mean?
Nope.
What did you think about that, Janice? Did you have any thoughts when you look at this cover? Versus this.
You know who she reminds me of is Halle Berry back in the day. And Halle Berry, I believe she's biracial. So I was thinking, well, maybe she's biracial, and she went away and came back home, and that's her, or maybe that's her father's village or her mother's village, and her other parent is whatever. And I don't know who wrote this, or it says DC Comics up there, so I don't know if this was a black writer or somebody else. But it doesn't even matter, because you know why? I'll tell you why. Because Black people have all kinds of colors, hairs, textures, you name it. Period. Black people. That's what colonization did to us. We have every kind of texture you can think of when it comes to hair, skin color, complexion, you name it. That's just how it is with us. So you don't really know who did it or who wrote this. I don't know the author, if she's a black or he's a black, or if it's a black person or whatever. But I just know that one thing about Black people is that our hair is beautiful no matter what. That's the point that I'm trying to make when in my comic books. I want every girl who reads my comic book to feel good about her hair no matter how it looks. Period. I don't care who she is.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Firebird, because this is a picture of Firebird, and I see her hair is in her. Can you pronounce her name again? The character behind.
Oh, that's Agent Eris.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about their hair. Because you didn't have to put, you chose these hairstyles for them. So was this intentional?
Yeah, it was. Actually, what happened when I wrote the first comic for Agent Eris, I wanted her to have definitely the curly hair. I wanted her to have black, curly hair, but I wanted it to be, and the artist came up with, let's give her a color. And I said, oh, okay, let's color her hair some, and she came up with purple. I said, oh, that's beautiful. Purple curly hair. Perfect. So I just thought it was pretty. So, but I wanted it to be long. And so the second one, I wanted not Star Angel, but I wanted Firebird to have short curly hair, because she's kind of like, I was kind of thinking like Pam Grier back in the 70s. When I was thinking about her hairstyle, kind of like, the big Afro thing, Afro. And I wanted her to have a shorter style. I didn't want them both to just have all this long hair. I wanted her to have shorter hair, but I wanted it to still be curly. And so, and now with Star Angel coming out, one thing about Star Angel and one thing about the Zyrathians is they only have one race, and that's the Zyrathian race.
Okay.
Love it.
And so, the thing about it, wouldn't it be nice if we could just all I don't understand why people have to make such a big deal out of the stuff that grows out of everybody's head. Everybody, just about everybody. Some people it doesn't grow, but the people everybody has this stuff coming out their head. So who cares? It's there for a reason. Our eyebrows are there for a reason. Everything is there for a reason. That's just how we were made.
Yeah. And that is a good question. And we've always wondered why people make a big deal out of the way our hair grows out naturally. But my personal opinion is the reason why some people take issue with the way our hair grows out of our head is because it's a reminder that we have a whole nother life and background and ancestry that they're trying to strip from us. So how important is it in your opinions, to make sure we do represent our hair in all its textures and all its forms? How important it is. So let's start with Tosh. Why do you think it's so important? And I want to I'm gonna show this character first. Let's talk a little bit about this character, but why is it so important to make sure that you represent, because this is intentional as well, these
Mhm.
so let's talk a little bit about this character and why, in your opinion, is it important to make sure that we are representing our texture in all its forms in the right way?
Mama, flip it and make my way to Shamika because she'll be the great example. But for me, it's very important to show how beautiful our hair is in all forms, all textures, all styles, because a lot of us grew up with a lot of hate towards our own hair thanks to colonization and other people, other Black people, because of colonization, having feelings towards
That's
Black
right.
hair and how it was nappy and unprofessional and
Mhm.
ugly. And like, I remember for our wedding, I told everybody that I was going to wear my hair in a big Afro puff. And everybody was like, for a wedding, are you sure? That's, so it's your wedding, you want to be formal and wear your hair in a really nice, pretty formal style. And I was like, what's not formal about a nice Afro puff
Mhm.
with, some hair? And I wore that Afro puff and I looked great.
I
Okay?
know it's pretty.
And I was just like, it's so weird because a lot of the people saying this were in my family.
Mhm.
And I don't know many people in my family who don't have natural hair. My mother and my brother have had locks my whole life. My mother only recently cut them due to some issues with aging. My grandmother's hair is natural. Yeah, everybody in my family's hair is natural. So I don't even know
Where that even
came from. And I want my children to love their natural hair, and I want other children to love their natural hair. And so we've made a very distinct choice that most of our characters, especially our Black women, are going to have natural hair. And so Shamika was purposeful too.
Yes.
Because being also a scientist, she's a Black woman in STEM. We wanted that to be shown.
Right.
That she's a Black woman in STEM and she still has her natural hair. And because of her being an experimental physicist, we thought it'd be cute to give her those multiple puffs, like
Those are
there
so
was the
cute.
planets
Mhm.
rotating around the sun.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
didn't come out exactly how we initially had envisioned it, but it's still, especially in that picture, came out pretty good because you can see the different bumps
Yeah.
in her
Beautiful.
puffs around her head. So
Mhm.
it ended up being 6. We did actually want it to be like 8 or 9. But I think that was
There was
a big ask.
yeah, we saw a very similar style when we were just trying to find styles and stuff. And there's this lady, it's an old black and white picture, and she just had it all the way around. It was amazing.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was just
it was like braided down in the
yes,
middle and then Afro
and it
puffs
was
all
absolutely
around her
amazing.
head.
We were like,
that's gorgeous.
whoa! I've never seen a style like that before.
And I love it.
And so it was just like something like that for this character, and not to not belabor a point or rant on too much, but like she said, to have her in STEM and have her in these corporate fields with her hair, just to be able to show her kids, like, yeah, like they're gonna have to respect it. Like this is part of you. It is what it is. You can't. This is a job. This is whatever. They can't take away who you are. So you go and command these spaces with everything that you are, and that's one of the things that we hope to accomplish with these characters.
Especially given Shamika's like whole backstory, like in her story, the discoveries she makes, they wouldn't have gotten that far without her because she was literally the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made a point with her. We made a point with the Blue Morpho. She has braids a lot of the time. We made a point with my character Fatima, which is the main character of the story, Edmani. She is Afro-Caribbean actually as well. My family is Caribbean on my dad's side, and I really wanted to get into that culture. And she has an afro loosely based off of me. So she has a nice little afro and she has to interact with that. We see her fluffing it and putting it in the braids, hair care, and all that stuff.
Oh
Just
wow!
I
You
love
show it in the comics.
in that first issue. You see her wake up. She takes off her bonnet. She takes her braids out. She fluffs her hair into her nice little afro and everything.
Well, and so these characters are almost. I'm gonna pay attention now because these characters are a reflection of what your hair journey is at the moment. They sound like too, but interesting what you said about the gray. You said Shamika is her name, but
Yes.
her superhero name is the gray. That's really interesting. And it just kind of lends itself back to the fact that, as Black women, science has proven that we are the beginning of the human race. And when you tie in that kind of cosmic feeling of the planets rotating around her, I mean that's just
That's
like
beautiful.
the chef's kiss,
I love that.
that's deep.
Thank you.
Let's jump into your character. This is one of your characters. Let's talk a little bit. He has a whole machete. Is that a machete? Oh,
That's a skateboard.
It's a blade called the Ngulungombe, which is from the Congo. The Congo has a lot of really cool bladed weapons. And for a really long time, I wanted to be the one Black man in Japan with a samurai sword. And then as time moved on, I kind of moved past that. And so that character is a representation of that, where instead of running around with a kimono and a Japanese mask and a katana doing a whole bunch of ninja stuff, he is a dude and he's Black and he got free forms and an African sword, and he does what he does in life unencumbered by external influence. And although that's not me, it's a physical, it's an artistic representation of that idea of letting go of that ideal and that fantasy of being the one Black man in Japan, and instead just existing as the combination of things that you are. So yeah, that is that character, and he ends up meeting the one Black child from Japan character and kind of beating him into submission, and kind of sits him down. He's like, "Hey, you Black, right?" And he makes him that you shouldn't associate Blackness with negativity or with unproductivity, like a lot of our people have a habit to. A lot of our people are dissatisfied with their experience of our culture and go to other cultures, and sometimes they stay there, but more often than not, they come to realize that the grass is not greener on the other side, and they return with what they've learned from their experience and their growth, and they pass on those lessons from that journey into the next generation. So that character is the catalyst for that phase in that other character's existence.
I have one more example. Nubia.
Yes.
So let's see. I have my initial thoughts, but I don't want to dictate the tone of this conversation. Janice, what are your initial thoughts on this particular cover? And I believe this is the latest Nubia storyline.
I think it's just gorgeous. I really do. I think that, well, first of all, I am a Wonder Woman fan. I love Wonder Woman. And I love her cousin, sister, whoever Nubia is to her. I love the Black women that Wonder Woman has, on her side, fighting along with her. And I haven't read Nubia yet, but I've heard of her, And I just think it's just beautiful. And it's in the Greek culture. But you know what? There's a lot of beautiful things about the Greek culture, too. So, who's to say what culture is the best? Culture is culture is culture. People are people are people. I mean, I just think it's beautiful. Beautiful artwork.
Yeah. Let's Ali, what are your thoughts on the way they've depicted Nubia in her hair?
I love this depiction of Nubia, and that they use the technology we now have to hit her with the hairbrush. The brush on the hair is immaculate. The muscle, like the way that they did her body and her costume and balanced out the armor with the aesthetic at the same time is great. And if we know there were Black people in Greece, and Nubia has a long history in the Wonder Woman comics, and without Black people in Greece, there wouldn't be Othello. And Othello is dope because they ain't just stick some random black dude in a Shakespeare story, but he was black and his blackness actually affected the context of the story. And these people that write comic books don't always have blackness be a factor for good and bad in a character story. They'll Hal Jordan in 1974 it, where they're like, here's this random person that's colored black but doesn't do anything black or have any black experiences. And I don't like that. So, them being able to balance all those factors at the same time is great.
All right, Lloyd, what about you?
So I love the cover. I'm looking at the whole thing, right? I see like the smoke in the background. Some of the stuff looks cracked, some of the buildings and stuff like that. And I see like in the face of adversity, this black woman is still leading the charge, right? And so you get to see how powerful she is, and like nothing is going to stop her, nothing standing in her way. And then it just adds to it with her hair. It's just a powerful statement as a whole. Like no matter what happens, she's here to stay. Nothing's taking her down. And so, yeah, it looks amazing.
And Tosh, what about you?
I would say when this comic first started, I looked at it and I was like, this is what happens when you finally put black women in the room, because I do know that one of the artists on this comic is black. And I'm like, this is what happens when you put us in the room.
That's right.
Nubia historically has actually had some pretty good hairstyles. Actually, I mean, when she was introduced, it was straight. She was black skin Diana, and over the years she got braids and her hair got a little more textured. But this is like the most amazing I've ever seen her. So,
yeah, I loved it. I love it, and I think all the covers. In this series, I think there's 6 books in this particular storyline. One of 6. Her hair is phenomenal. And what I love about this particular hairstyle is that it looks like a crown. It looks like it's alive. It looks like it has power too. Like if you try to punch it, it's gonna punch you back. It just looks so it's reflective of her royalty. You know, I know Diana's a princess. Is she considered a princess too? Nubia? I'm not sure about that, but it just looks so regal and so strong. And obviously we know that when someone fights, their hair is pulled back. We know that. But I'm gonna forgive this artist because it's just beautiful. And it's a true reflection of Nubia and the role she plays in this particular storyline. So I love this depiction of her. I have a page from the book. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. And you again, let's talk a little bit about this. She has a wrap
gorgeous.
on.
She is gorgeous.
Yeah, she has a wrap on. And then boom, when she ready to go, she got her hair
ready
down.
to
go. But I think either Lee said it or Tosh said it. You can tell when you have someone that understands the Black experience, because this is exactly how we wear our hair in the house. Like we're not going to have it out.
You put it in a thing just like that. Yeah.
We'll put it up. And even here in this lower panel here on the left, she has it all the way wrapped up. Is that I'm not sure if that's her or I think that is her. Yeah. And then when she ready to go, she got her hair, she's ready, and it looks like a crown to me. It's perfect. And look at the curls, look at the detail. But you can tell this artist is I believe this artist on this issue was a Black person, but I could be wrong. There was different artists throughout this series.
Probably was.
I think this one was the Black woman, because I know one of them was.
Yeah, that detail is amazing. My comic book, Luna, the Queen of Maru, is an extension of my past, present, and future, particularly my main character, Luna. Luna represents so many things to me and to her fans, so it's very important that when people see her, they can see themselves as well, especially brown and Black girls. Luna's look was inspired by the small percentage of islanders of the Solomon Islands who have naturally blonde hair and beautiful brown skin. At one point, many thought that their blonde hair could be attributed to Europeans, but interestingly, this genetic variation is caused by a single gene called TYRP1, which is not found in Europeans' genomes, which only emphasizes this fact. Our hair comes in all colors, all textures, and variations, and no one should gatekeep what we now know to be a part of our dynamic and culturally rich heritage. Hey y'all, my name is Moon the Storyteller, and I'm here with another episode of Comic Book Noob. This month for Juneteenth, we are talking about our hair, Black hair in the comics. So this is part 2 of another panel of amazing creatives and business owners. I'm here with some old friends and some new friends. So let's just jump right into it. Today, please introduce yourself.
Again, my name is Tanae. I've been a lifelong friend of the Storyteller, and I am a travel business owner who has loved comic books since I was a little girl. So glad to be part of this panel.
Thank you. All right, the Mighty Z.
Hey, I'm the Mighty Z. You can just call me Z. And I basically do content based on representation in different sources of media, especially comic books. And with comic books, I particularly do representation of Black women.
Thank you. And Lonzo.
My name is Lonzo Starr. I'm the CEO and founder of Concrete Comics and the writer-creator of the award-winning Legendary Acolyte.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking some time to talk about, this, add to this conversation of our hair in the comic books. So I'm going to kick off the conversation with a page from this indie comic book called Hot Comb by Ebony Flowers. It was published about in 2020. You can find it on Amazon. And what was really interesting about this story was there was a scene when she was a little girl being made fun of because of her hair, the texture of her hair. So you can see in one of the panels, the girl is saying, "Girl, you need to do your hair." And then they're talking about buckshots, and then they're talking about BDBs. So, for those who may not know what buckshots or BDBs are, it's those things, those little curls in the back of your neck that you get. Some of us get. And when we were little, and sometimes even through the 90s, we've seen it on Martin where BDBs, buckshots, those were jokes, and it poked fun of the texture of our hair. So that takes me back to, when we were little. I have my own experiences with hair, but I want to hear what your experiences with your hair was when you were a child, positive or negative. So, Lonzo, let's get started with you.
So I grew up in a pretty, it wasn't strict, but it was a pretty conservative home. So to grow my hair, I had to earn that right and stuff like that. So my hair really means a lot to me. So when I was designing Acolyte, for obvious reasons, he was modeled after me. So he has my hair, he has my locks, he has, my little goatee. Because I really wanted to put my representation in there because that's something that I loved when I was younger. Is really like every time I would try to draw like Wolverine or draw any of these superheroes that I loved, I always would draw them looking like me. Whatever hairstyle I had, whether it be a curly fro, short hair with the waves. Superman had the waves when he was me. And I just really wanted to put that in there because I know there's kids out there that think just like me, feel just like me. That even in the video game world, man, I'm a big I play Grand Theft Auto a lot, and there's no locks that go down to this length. They stop like right at the ear. So I can't fully be myself there. Video games always hating on black hair. In comics, Storm always had straight hair for most of my life. You never really see that natural, that supernatural hair. And when they do show it, they usually make them bald, very short haired. So it's just always been a lack for, you know, our just Black folks in general in the comic book medium. Even Power Rangers, Zach had a crazy hairline that we would never allow to be represented in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like hairlines getting, you know, botched up in movies. They throwing these dreadlock wigs on Shamar Moore out here. So yeah, man, you know, things are really necessary out here. Things that we do, Carla, all of us, the stuff that we put out here in the world is really needed because they're not gonna represent us the way we will.
Mm-hmm. All right, Z, what about you? Take us back to, you know, one of your earliest memories of your hair.
I remember back when this was around when the natural hair movement really kind of kicked up a bit, like social media wise. I was like 14 at the time, and you really realized just how many Black people didn't know how to maintain natural hair. Because, you know, my mom, they all started the whole thing. She really struggled with helping me do my hair. And I just kind of got into the way and how I do my hair, because it's like, I can't learn from you if you don't know either. So it was always kind of a hassle, because it's like everything we did was an experiment. It was kind of exhausting, especially since a lot of companies were like, oh, Black people want to spend money on hair care now, so let's just pump out whatever. So there were these issues of companies buying out Black-owned hair care products. And
Carol's daughter.
So it was always just like, what is it? What was that thing? It's called Mixed Chicks.
Yeah.
They got bought out too?
I don't think they got bought out, but it didn't work for me. Because that's the thing. Everybody has a different texture. So then you also have to be aware of which products will work for you, which ones won't. So, and I had like combo hair. So like one side of my hair was thicker than the other. So it was like, and the prices started going up. They were starting to like racket up the prices. So then it's like, it became hard to keep spending money on something where you're not guaranteed if it'll like even work for your hair or not, especially when it came to, you know, like a lot of splitting. There was so much damage, a lot of the just like hair coming out in like clumps sometimes. And it was just kind of like a lot, because it's like you have these natural hair gurus who are also coming in telling you, oh, this is not what you do. This isn't what you do. But then jump forward like 5 years or so later, and they're like, actually, I want you to do that. The rules would just change constantly, and it would get like, oh, that's not what healthy hair looks like. How do you define what healthy hair is? It would get like very confusing, especially since this was just fresh out of us coming out of the relaxers.
Yeah.
Because I've only had a relaxer once, and that was when I was around like 13. And I never did it again because my aunt left it in, because she was like, you know, if it's burning, that means it's working. And yeah, it took me a while for my hair to grow back in the front, because I lost like a little chunk of it, like in the top. It's always like a never-ending battle of like never knowing what's actually good for your hair until it's too late.
Very traumatic. It sounds like you've been through a lot with your hair, and you were still young. You were still very young.
Especially like I grew up in the South. Like I'm in South Carolina, and in Columbia, like most like the main schools in my area were like predominantly white. Like they were usually pretty mixed, but for the most part, there were more than the other. And seeing that kind of hair would usually warrant some like unkind things. Like yeah, so it got to the point where it was also isolating to wear your hair a certain way. So you really just kind of like not do it, like because you know there's no one that can help you do your hair. Most people are making fun of you because of your hair. Right. The people who are supposed to like have like the beautiful curls and stuff, commercials that you see on the TV, they're usually wearing wigs, because you're trying to figure out why theirs came out so perfect and why yours didn't.
Right.
And you have people who are also saying like, oh, well, these are like the right kind of curls. Your curls don't look like that. Like,
Yeah, they're not bouncy enough. Yeah.
yeah. So then it was just like, okay, this is tiresome. And then it's like, you know what? I'm not touching it. I'm just gonna let a professional do it. Like, so then it's like you just go to like the salon instead. You know, you're just back to square one.
Mm-hmm. Which is more money.
Yeah.
Right.
So it sounds like you got a lot of mixed like advice and a lot of confusion. And so we'll talk a little bit about how you were able to get past that, you know, and now how you find now why you view certain hairstyles in the comics the way you do. It definitely makes sense. All right, and Tanae, what about you? What's your earliest memory?
Well,
I remember how you used to wear your hair, so
right. Well, one of my first memories, I remember visiting my grandparents in Philadelphia, and I remember, right? And I remember my grandma combing my hair, and you know when you hear the comb snap because it was trying to get through those naps. And I remember screaming and crying. And my grandfather called me upstairs, and he sat me on his lap, on one lap, and the other lap had a leather hide belt. So you gonna let your grandma do your hair? And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, so that you sat there trying not to scream as you're still trying to rip out, seems like your roots from the rest of your head. And then I kind of with Z, when we were talking about Halle Berry earlier, like then that was like the craze, you know, you get your relaxer and here you go. And I even got to the point where I was allowing my hair to grow, and I was going to a stylist, and I was told that I was wearing a weave. And this was in middle school, you know, and I was called to weave. That's what they would call me, because I'm like, I don't have no weave, they don't feel no tracks, but you know, but it created a complex because one, you're looking at everybody that has the long hair, and then you get the long hair, and they're looking at you like, oh, that's a weave. There's no way that you could grow your hair that way. So definitely, and that took a little part of my journey as I got older. A path that I took was starting to do hair because I didn't know what to do. And again, once getting those relaxers and how it affected me physically, being in the hospital and things like that. And once I stopped, all those things went away. So just a big journey as far as the process of hair cutting, growing it out, nappy as they call it. You know, you didn't want to be the nappy one. You know, you didn't want to have the BDBs and the buckshots because everybody was going to call you out on it.
yeah. It at an early age, I think all of us, especially in this country, one of the first lessons we learn is about our hair, and that impacts the way we see ourselves, and how we grow, you know, into ourselves. And for some of us, it's a part of our identity. And I think it's safe to say that all of us, our hair is a part of our identity, an extension of who we are. Which leads me to let's go to you, Z. I asked you to, you know, come with some examples of characters you felt, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the hairstyle. So we have, let me just pull up this one here. Could you tell me why you chose this character, Philippus? If I
Yeah.
say your name correctly. Why is this, just tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, because usually like this is when they try to do like braids, especially, they tend to forget that we have, well, one thing is that they forget we have edges. As you can see, like there's nothing like for the hairline here, there's nothing right there, nothing at all. And then with the braiding, it's like just a bald head that they just put things over, nothing in between. Like they're a little too far apart as well. You could.
And
It
there's
just
no coil. There's no three coil. Like there's no three coils, you know?
yeah, and you can't tell if they're supposed to be braids or locks because you can't see if there's any like indication of braiding or twisting here. So if they're locks, then that's another thing.
Yeah.
Right. It looks like somebody pasted it on her scalp. Let me get rid of that. And then here's another example. At least we have a hairline here.
Yeah. They do a thing where like at the root it starts out straight, and then when it gets to like the actual lock part, it's like it kind of coils a bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's always kind of a lack of consistency. Like I've even seen with I don't know if you could pull up Alinta, but sometimes with Alinta is a DC character. Her locks would like merge together. Like they would forget that you have to like actually draw the individual locks differently, but no, they would just merge into this one thing. So it looked like straight hair sometimes, but then the locks would like merge and unmerge. It was very weird.
Okay, I'll add it to the replay.
I was gonna say, so I think sometimes what happens is because we experience that when we're working with artists to draw our characters. Sometimes these artists from these other countries, they've never really seen Black people in real life, like especially African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have to send them references of literal, like the hairline, how to get it right, because some of them don't shape up the way we do. They only seen locks in maybe a movie that may have been a wig, and not seeing real locks. So sometimes that I would say that may not fall on the artist, but maybe the editor in chief, which is probably a person not of color that doesn't know what it's supposed to look like, and that's why they got to get more people like us in those rooms to be like, nah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about why it's important to get it right. So let's pull up some concrete comics examples. So we talked a little bit about Acolyte here, the one in the blue. What was it like? Let's talk about your creative process, Lonzo, because you have a connection to your own locks as well. What does your locks represent for you? And why was it important to make sure that your character had locks as well?
My locks represent a journey. Like every inch of my lock was a different time period of who I was, what I was going through. I can remember every stage of my locks, where I was when they were just by my ear to where they were when they were down my back to when I put them back in now. Everything is like, it kind of holds time in there, and if somebody was to really break these down, they could date them. Like, oh, this is from this time, that time, that time. So that's the cool thing about locks. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, no, it's been a journey. I see why some people with locks get judged the way they do, because the way you style your locks, the way you wear them, it can represent a certain energy, whether it be negative or positive. You know what I'm saying? So you really got to be careful with how you carry yourself and what you're doing in the time period of having your locks, because that energy stays with you because it's locked in time. It's locked in here with you. So that's really what my locks meant to me. When I first got them started, I got them started by a Haitian friend. She was from Haiti, so I didn't want to just go to just a random salon and get them. I wanted somebody from the cloth to do my locks, to start them right. I never used like no beeswax and nothing like that. Just oil and just twist, oil and water. That's it. Just twist. So I've never really done product like that. I've had my my share of products that I may have sprayed in there to keep it moisturized. But once you start doing a research on who owns these products and stuff like that, you don't want to really use them and start making your own products up. But yeah, no, locks have been it's been a journey, and it was really important for me to give Acolyte the locks. When I created Acolyte, I had cut my locks. I didn't even have them, but I knew I was going to get them back. So I needed him to represent that, because this part of me, the locks part of me, is like I always joke with my friends, but it feels like the truest version of me. I've always liked myself with longer hair. It just, I don't know, it just feels more natural to me. You know what I mean? I didn't mind cutting it, but just letting it grow, letting it rock out, it just feels like that's what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, shout out to my locks.
Yes. And Tanae, you have locks. When you look at a character like Acolyte, how do you feel when you see the locks represented here?
I feel good because again, it's taken so long for natural hair to even be recognized, even in just regular commercials, you know. So to see it and to see that it's done correctly, like she brought up before, merging together, you don't see the definition, the coil, things like that. So it really touches home because it's like, that's me, that's us, and it's done in a right way. You know, like that's a good picture, but it's like it looks like she has worms coming out of her head. Nobody would represent and think like that's locks, or that's braids.
Monica, yeah. This is
So
Monica.
it's like to
You
be
actually reminded me of this one character. She was in the New 52. Not many people read it for DC, but her name was Skitter, and she was supposed to be like one of Amanda Waller's daughters. And they had it to where she had like insect kind of powers, and they had it to where her locks were like, like you ever seen like a roach's legs?
The antenna?
Yeah, like the antenna things with the hairs on it. That's what they had. I'm like, and I'm just like, I don't think you thought this through. Because they were like, I'm sure someone in there was like, this will look so cool because it, like, no.
Right. And because they don't know what our hair represents. Our hair is our crown, so it holds our power, it holds our identity. And to use our hair in any other way but that, I think is very demeaning. So Tanae, let me get your thoughts on, and Z, let me get your thoughts on this picture here. Let me see if I can find it.
I have to remind myself you're talking to her. My middle name is Tanae.
Oh wow.
All right, so Storm, we love Storm. Storm was one of the I'm a comic book noob, but she was I think it's safe to say she was one of the first Black superheroes, right? But every time I have seen her, she's always had straight hair, which for me, it's a little contradicting because she's African. So, I mean, and there are some African people cultures that have straight hair. But I just thought it was kind of a missed opportunity for the original writers and artists to depict Storm with anything other than, curly hair. So let's get your thoughts on that. Z, let's start with you because you are our history buff here. So,
yes.
Well, it is kind of funny because, during the time when she was created, they have it to where like, Professor X finds her in like literal, she's in Africa. So I'm like, who was doing her hair? Like who was, but, cause like at the time she was supposed to be like in a remote area. So, and then this is just the science part for me. She's a weather goddess. It rains when she's moving around. If I go outside right now with this, it's not lasting. So I'm like, I need to find the magical that she's using. It's like her hair. I don't think they thought about that. I've actually met a few people who didn't know that if it rains, it goes right back. Like if it gets wet, it will revert. A lot of people just don't know that. And I guess the artist didn't know either because she's out here in the wind and the rain and the electricity alone. Her hair's not staying straight. It doesn't make sense for her hair to be straight.
Right.
You have to use your suspension of disbelief here. So yeah, but it was interesting because at the time they did know how to draw other Black hairstyles because Monica was out around the same time and she had like an afro. There was also Stevie Hunter. Stevie was one of the human teachers at the Professor X's academy, and she had like full-on Fulani braids. So I'm like, oh, so we're just picking and choosing here. So sometimes I notice when they have a Black character who's like the it girl, Usually they'll have her be the one who fits those particular standards of beauty more than other Black women. And I feel like that was kind of the case with Storm, because, with Storm, before they just stuck with just the blank white sclera of her eyes, they just kind of did like the white hair with the blue eyes.
Mhm.
I know most people prefer the white though. So yeah, you have because I remember distinctly, it was in a kind of skirmish they had with the Hellfire Club, and Jean Grey was under like hypnosis. When Storm in this hypnosis, because mind you, like Jean's kind of being thought to believe that like she's bringing back like slavery because Hellfire Club was like super racist. In this vision of like them bringing back slavery, all of Storm's features that she's naturally drawn with were gone. Like all of a sudden, when Jean sees her as a slave, a Black slave, her eyes are dark brown. She has a wider nose, and she has on a scarf with it doesn't even look like she has like a lot of hair. Like she just has a scarf covering her hair entirely. Like all that straight hair, all like the blue eyes, it's all gone. So I'm like, this kind of is an indicator to me that you drew her knowing that you didn't give her more Afrocentric features. Barry here.
Yeah. So we talked about some examples, some bad examples of Black hair in the comic books. Let's keep it positive. We talked about Acolyte. Let's talk a little bit about let's see. There's Acolyte again, and then this is Odina, one of the other characters from Concrete Comics. Odina was created by Anaji Rouse, who could not be here today because he got invited to a premiere of a movie that's coming out in a few weeks. So he's missed big time now. But I want to represent him. This is Odina, and she had and I love her hairstyle because it's very contemporary, very modern. On one side is shades, and on the other side, you can tell it's textured. And that's what I really, really love. And then he has it in different textures throughout the series, but this is one that is reflective of the fact that it is textured, but yet even though it's long, it is long, which means when she straightens, it's probably down to her ankles, But it's just so classy, and it shows diversity. Beyond we see braids, we see afros, but to have this style, it just adds more diversity, I feel, to the Black hair conversation. So I love it. I wish he was here to tell us a little bit more about it, but I love it.
Yeah, he's extremely particular with his character designs and the hair, the hairstyles, because he really wants to push that narrative around of the diversity and the different styles and textures of Black women's hair. So I think Odina, if I'm not mistaken, he used inspirations from Fantasia. She had a style similar to this, and he used her as a reference. And combined it with something else that he had in mind for the longer part. But yeah, I think Fantasia was a big inspiration to this hairstyle.
Yes. All right. Tanae, this is a character, Organic Chrissy. She's also a new character from Concrete Comics. So what are your thoughts when you see her Afro puffs?
She is me. I like to. Before I had locks, I wore my hair, of course, permed and straight, but I aspired to be able to make my Afro puffs look like that. Like when I had my hair, I would blow it out and I'd have the Afro out to here, but I could never get my puffs to look like that. So she's like my mantra. Like, I'm like, that's me. That's what I would like to look like. If I was drawn as a comic, that's what I want to be.
And we have girls in our families that have Afro puffs. Like I just think about, my little cousins, my cousins' children. They wear their hair like this, and for them to see a character like this, they finally can see themselves as superheroes. And not to say that Storm isn't a great superhero, because we love our Storm. Not to say that Monica Rambeau isn't our superhero, because we love Monica, especially with the movie coming out. But when they put that cherry on top and add that texture, you know, and that hairstyle that we grew up with, it's just it's something about it. It takes us back to the good positive memories that we have of our hair. So I thought that was just I think these are really great examples of Black hair, you know, and why it's really important to get it right. All right. So I'm not gonna take too much time out. I just wanted to show one more example. But I love this. And this is actually the type of hair I want my character Luna to have. As my character progresses and starts to manifest more powers, her hair is going to grow. So I'm going to give the artist this as inspiration. So let's talk a little bit about this representation. I'm sorry, Z, we're covering over your face. So I just wanted you to see it. This is Nubia. So let's talk a little bit about her. Now, when she first came out, though, that her hair ain't look like that.
No. They basically gave her like the same hair as because at the time she's supposed to be like Diana's black twin. So she just had the same hair as Diana. I think for a while she had like a white streak in her hair for some reason too. So that was kind of what you had at first. And I think she was supposed to be in that Wonder Woman show, like, you know, the one with
Linda Carter.
Yeah, Linda Carter. But they read it out for some reason. So the actress played something. I think, what was her name again? She was a popular Black actress. She was in the show just as a different character.
I don't know
that one.
What else did she play in?
She was a model. And she married a really well-known football player.
Okay.
I was about to say Amon, but she married Bowie. You know, but I don't know. I'm about to look it up.
Jackie something. I'll remember her at some point, and I'm gonna be mad when I do because it'll be in the middle of the night. Yeah, like they had like these little Nubia dolls, and they all had like the same kind of straightish hair. So you were just like, oh, okay. And as her kind of character progressed, because she would show up in like you know, alternate universes, and sometimes she would have curly hair, but for the most part it was straight. And also in the Injustice comics, she had locks in those. Wasn't the best design, but you could tell they kind of tried. But I was kind of happy to see more of the designs in Nubia and the Amazons, because there was a lot more detail put into like the actual like texture of her hair. She also had some versatility with hairstyles as well, because sometimes it would be out, sometimes it would be, you know, in braids. I kind of like that, because, you know, most Black women usually like to switch it up a bit sometimes. Like sometimes you could have braids, you could have a weave, you could have like locks, like because you know, my younger sister, she does like installation, so she'll do weaves, but she'll also do like faux locks, you know, like the goddess locks. They'll do those, braids, all that.
And I love this. Now I know probably I might offend somebody, but I personally didn't. I don't think this was the best storyline for Nubia, but the artwork, in all 6 issues of this latest Nubia storyline, I think this was I think it was incredible. Like that whole look how defined those curls are, and you know, and then she has it wrapped up, but then you can still see the hairline. You can just tell a woman of color. And I did not look up the artist, but you can tell someone of color drew this, just because of how well defined those curls are. That is the best hair I have ever seen in the comics.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's another thing too, is that you rarely ever saw a Black woman go to bed with a bonnet on. And me, like even in live TV shows, if there was like a Black actress, she would be like in bed, nothing. Like I don't think the director was told.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And right. I was just thinking about Martin because we always constantly have Martin, and Gina never had her hair in a bonnet. I think towards
No,
the end
one
though,
time.
what
Yeah.
yeah, towards the end there, she had her hair in a bonnet. But that's probably because she took off her wig, you know what I mean?
Right. But I like that too.
Go ahead, Tanae.
I mean, I like that representation. I think that Z brought up a good point, like how we are so versatile with our hair. Like, you can wear your hair straight one day and it's not permed. And the fact that we can even train our hair to do different things, like um I went into doing natural hair because of not being able to go to the beauty salons. And that was, I guess, part of my thing where every time I went to the beauty salon, everybody wanted to put rollers in my hair. And I looked like I was 80 years old and I was only 14. And they wanted to put the curlers, sit in the dryer, and then comb them out and be like, look, we can comb them out, but push them back up. And it's like, why is that the only style that I can do? And I'm going to different people. So it was like, that was like my inspiration. Like, I need to do hair. And then, especially when I had a daughter, I was like, oh man, I definitely need to know how to learn how to do hair. And she had a texture that like doesn't hold moisture. So I had to find products, and then finally just eventually just started making my own products because like Z brought out, it's like one product, it may work for a while and then all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore because they changed it, the
It's
whole
like you're
ingredient.
almost sometimes will adapt to it too if it's not strong enough. Because like after a while, my hair would it would just eat up any kind of moisturizer, so it would still come out dry because the product just wasn't like moisturizing as it should have.
Exactly.
And then they started coming out with all these names like high porosity, low porosity. What does this mean?
Right.
And one of my friends, she makes her own hair products, and she was actually approached by a larger company. I'm not going to name that company, but they actually offered to buy her brand. And obviously she would stay on, but she knew she would lose that control of what was actually put into those products. And she refused. She said, no, I'd rather stay where I'm at, but still have quality products than it be watered down. And, I become this millionaire, because she preferred to keep the integrity of her product, just so, because it was everything to her. That was her life. So with that being said, because you mentioned TV, let's talk about obviously the biggest example of Black hair in the comic books, and that is the comic book adaptation of Wakanda. So that first movie, and if anybody has seen me in interviews, I always talk about T'Challa. Oh my gosh, T'Challa and the Chadwick Boseman, and I can't wait to. I believe I have a firm faith that I'm going to meet him one day. And when he comes back, when I come back on the other side, I'm gonna say, you probably don't remember, but your performance inspired millions of people, and that movie that he was in, I don't think they're ever going to be able to bring that nostalgia. I don't think they're going to ever be able to bring that back, because he was Black Panther. He is Wakanda. And when he passed, we were all grieving. Now, this second film allowed me to actually grieve his death, and I'm okay. But we ain't gonna get it back. Like, we're not gonna get it back. But what I loved about both movies was that unapologetically they showcased our hair. And they showcased different cultures of the African continent. And it was completely untouched by European standards. So let's talk about your thoughts. When you saw that movie, did you think they were going to come represent? Did you think that? So let's start with you, Tay.
I think the best part in that movie was when they went to the nightclub and I had the wig on, and she's like, oh, get rid of this thing. It was like, because that's what you see. Every time you see a Black woman, you gotta have straight hair, you gotta have the long. No, that's
done. It's being done. Yeah, that's done.
And it's like, I love the fact that they put that representation in there to show like we're not our hair. Like, this is not what we are, like, and I love that representation. And like I said, and just staying true to the different cultures, and the fact that they did the research of the different cultures and different tribes in Africa and tried to match those and had authentic people from those tribes in the movie so that they could really say, no, this is how we do our hair, this is our culture, this is our tribe's traditions, and like they kept true to that. So I was really enamored by that movie and just how they kept true to being in Africa. It wasn't like we in Africa, but we really in London, you know, or something like that. Like, no, we're in Africa, and this is how different Africans wear their hair.
Right. I love that. What about you, Z?
Yeah, I just really appreciate, because people forget like the magic of actually hiring Black people, not just on screen, but behind the scenes. Because it really, none of that could have been done if it wasn't for the Black hairstylists, the Black designers, all that. Because you already know, with that stylist union they have in Hollywood, they make it extremely hard for Black people to get into those things. So in other shows and other movies, you know, you see a character who is Black and their hair just looks bad because the stylists don't know how to do our hair, and they're not trying to learn how to do our hair, and it makes the actor not only look bad, but they also feel bad, because now they feel like just them existing, just them having the hair that they do, makes them a burden. And it's like always sad to hear about that with Black actors, just how that made them feel. So seeing something like this was just so meaningful, because you actually have people who understand the hair and who know what they're doing. They understand the significance, how much like it matters. Even with the Dora Milaje, with the you know, like the more like bald look, this was still handled very well. They still had like the elegance, and then you still have the importance of the look as well. Like they just had like
They
not
have
all
they have markings too on their
Yeah.
scalp.
Right.
like it's, you could tell like it's like still like very like it's very nice, and all of them just look model-esque as well. Like you could tell they weren't trying to like punch down at them or anything.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And plus too, you had
It didn't look like that. It didn't look. It looked very regal and like royalty. Even the soldiers, the Dora Milaje, they were royalty. Like I felt, you know.
and like the versatility with the designs too, because like Shuri in that one, she had like braids. But then sometimes it would be in a bun, sometimes it would be in two buns, sometimes pony. Like they would just do all these different things with the styles. And it just really showed like how much you can really do with Black hair. Even the one tribe, they would did a shout out to the one where they do use the red clay in their hair. You had so many different styles, like even like the background characters, there were so many different styles, like you just point them all out. And like I said, it's like a huge showcase of the versatility of Black hair. Just like not even just the styles, but like even the accessories they would put in the hair. Like you would see like these large ornaments, all these different things. It was kind of like the hair shows that they have in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it was because not a lot of people know about them, but it's also like just really cool, just because our hair is also an art. And I don't think people recognize that enough, that it is an art form. Because you know, nowadays you have people who say like it's just hair, why does it matter? When you ask about like people who like culturally appropriate, you know, like white girls who want to wear like braids and all that stuff.
Or say they invented cornrows.
What is it? The boxer braids.
The boxer braids. She invented cornrows. Yes. I'm like, oh wow. I remember one day I was at work. I had like 6 cornrows, and one of my coworkers says, "Oh, you have the boxer braids. I love when Kim wears them." And I didn't say nothing because I wasn't feeling well that day, so I didn't want to, you know, come off. But because you know how I get today. I was like, wow, this is it, and it's so funny because we were all at one point we were made fun of for having braids. We were made fun of for our curls, and now everybody wants to have them. Now it's the cool thing to have, you know. So, but yeah, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, they represented well. I think even the costume design, they won an Oscar. I'm sure hair and makeup did. I'm sure. I'm just not caught up on the Oscars. But
I even like
even the lighting was
in
so
the
nice. It's so rare that you find people who know how to light people of different skin colors, because
yes.
other times in shows they don't care at all about the
Mhm.
lighting on the black characters, but here it's like you could see like there was so much life in their skin. It didn't look dull, it didn't look washed out. Like it
Mhm.
was just really nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
It
in
was
Lupita's
wonderful.
character, even her hair, like she had just the short fro, and that was one of the styles that people made fun of, and just like, oh, your hair look nappy. Why don't you comb it? And it was like, but it was beautiful the way it had just a little bit of the pool of the curls and things like that, where
Mhm. And she was
people
the
wouldn't
love
understand.
interest. She was the
Exactly.
love interest, and usually, women with the natural hair are not the love interest; they're the sidekicks or the
Exactly.
comic relief. So I just thought Black Panther, that the adaptation, that they just Marvel, outdid itself when they did Black Panther, and then Wakanda Forever. Unfortunately, we lost Chadwick, so it wasn't what it was supposed to be, but they did the best they could with the circumstances, and it allowed all of us to grieve, which was the most important thing. So that's all I have. That's all I have. I think we talked about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just why it's so important to get it right, when it comes to representing our hair in the comic books. So Tanae, let us know how we can support you.
Well, I'm not a comic book writer. I am a noob, but I am a travel business owner. And Lonzo was talking about all those conventions that you guys are going to, and you need accommodations, whether it's hotels, rental cars, just that space. I'm your girl, Sunkissed Travels. I'd love to be a part of that world to help you, create not just going, to your conventions, but, getting that upscale status too. So you feel like you're you're royalty like you already are.
Right. And I'm going to put your information down below, down in the description of the video. So yes.
Thank you.
And Z, thank you, Miss Influencer. Yeah.
I was gonna tell you on my video about Luna. A girl, she had this really long, like curly honey blonde hair. She was just like, "Oh, I love this. She looks just like me."
Oh, wow. Yeah. And when I do my video about Luna and her hair and my inspiration for Luna's hair, I'm going to talk about, there's a tribe in the African culture that has blonde hair and dark skin. So I'm gonna be talking about them as well. But I'm glad your fans are starting to relate to Luna. So let us know how we can support you.
Well, I post every now and again, and I just make sure to keep people aware about the media that they're intaking and kind of identifying these kinds of harmful tropes you see in media whenever you're watching a TV show. Because the first thing people will tell you is it's not that deep, but all media tends to be that deep. It's media. So just keeping your mind on these things, always looking out for them, making sure that we have our voices heard when it comes to our representation, no matter what media is, whether it's comic books, movies, anything really, like video games. I just talked about that this week. Just like always staying aware. And yeah, just like you can always just tune in whenever you want.
Oh yeah, whenever I see your post, I say, "Oh, she about to go in." I'll be swiping, I'll be scrolling. Yeah. So, and then you can be found on TikTok and Instagram at the Mighty Z.
Yeah, and I'm the Mighty Z2 on Twitter.
That's our conversation. We could go on all night about this and that. But I'm respectful of your time. I wanted to just have you all share how we can support you, what you're working on. So Janice, tell us how we can support you. Tell us where we can find you and what you're working on.
I hope so.
Well, you can support me by visiting kentecomics.com. That's KENTE comics.com. And you can find out about my characters on the website. And you can join a group that I have, the Kente Comics group. And you can also purchase the comic books there too. So And that's how you can support me. And what I'm working on now is Star Angel. So I'm working on her story, and it's going to be just so good.
I know it is. I know it is. So the first 2 issues were really good. All right, Lee.
Oh, if you go on Google and you type JUASO, you will find me across all channels eventually, and you'll see some cool stuff happening in Ghana as well.
All right. Good. What are you working on right now?
Right now I've closed my website where we were allowing a lot of artists to sell stuff, and I'm focusing on making a comic called Haiti, which is rooted in the Haitian Revolution, Caribbean history and mythology. Also working on some stuff with Monia Shaibi, who's a cosplayer. She has a project called Ash Rose that I'm drawing for. So yeah, we're getting some work knocked out, and hopefully being in a position to have some more illustrators from social media start putting their projects out and have a place to put them.
That's very important. And I think too, one thing that is difficult for me is vetting these artists that say they can draw, but really I don't think they're the ones drawing the pictures. But so I'll be looking forward, to have you. It's almost like you're creating this hub where artists can promote their work, and people like me can come and hire them. Is that what that is, or
More
just a showcase?
Yeah, more so a culture where artists understand not to overvalue themselves and are honest about what they bring to the ecosystem. Reality is the vast majority of these amazing comics written by these amazing, talented, strong, creative creators from our community are not drawn by Black people. And they're not drawn by Black people, one, because people be overpricing themselves unnecessarily, but secondarily, a lot of people have gotten so jazzed up on likes and followers that they don't take the time to learn how to draw in a style conducive to making comics or storytelling in general or drawing backgrounds and coupling that with you end up having to go to Brazil or the Philippines or Nigeria in order to get your project done. And until artists from our community understand that and can work with that and humble ourselves, we'll be in a tricky spot where we get beaten out by people that might look like us but might not come from our communities. And it's a reality that for some reason people don't want to talk about. I don't know why that is.
You kind of hit the nail on the head with me. That's one of the reasons why I went to Fiverr. I couldn't afford the artist that I really truly, I love my artist. I love my artist. He was a god, a godsend. But I did look in our community first, and I couldn't afford them. So
yeah, same.
But sometimes things happen for a reason. I love my artist Ian. He's based out of Asia. I love his interpretation of my characters. But in the future, and he's told me, he was like, work with other artists, because he's getting really busy. And Lee, I'm not gonna, this is not the conversation, but I want to get your thoughts on AI, because I know you got a lot to say on AI right now. So I know I'm gonna have to have a whole nother panel about AI. All right, thank you, Lee. And Midnight Comics, Tosh and Lloyd, tell us how we can support you, where we can follow you, and what you're working on right now.
Yeah. Well, of course, you can find us on midnightcomics.org. That'll link you everywhere. But of course, Instagram,
Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube.
Right. You'll find us at Midnight X Comics.
On Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram.
And then just Midnight Comics everywhere
on
else.
YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah. But midnightcomics.org will get you all those places as well. And what all are we working on?
We are working on a lot. We are working on getting issue 1 of The Gray and issue 1 of Admani prepped and ready for Kickstarter later this year. Yeah. We are working on writing quite a few stories in the background still, because we're always writing most of our stories. We are working on our audio drama that releases on YouTube every Monday. And you have a new series that you're working on.
Yes. So working on a series called Indie Verses. And so that's why I was getting some extra questions from answers from Janice, because one of the matches that we're doing is her character, Agent Eris, versus a character from Ruling Hand, Gehenna Imperium. So yeah, so just excited about that. I wanted to dive more into the indie community and the characters there. And we see people comparing stuff to mainstream, but let's get to know each other's characters more, right? And through that and support and promote each other. So yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. Like I said, this was a really great conversation. We can go on and on about this. I could provide more examples, but I think the point has been made that mainstream, there's still a long way to go when it comes to mainstream. So that's why it's important as indie creators that we represent ourselves in all its textures and all its forms, because at the end of the day, this we are actually creating these stories for ourselves. We're creating it for the generations to come.
Yeah.
And so we want our children to see themselves in these characters.
Positive.
Yes, yes. So well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Again, Janice, Lee, Lloyd, and Tosh, it's been a pleasure. It's been my honor. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about our hair, Black hair, in the comics. All right. You all take care.
Much love.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See y'all later.
It was nice meeting you all.
And so, Lonzo, I know you got to dip out because you got some things you got to do.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to talk a little bit about your hair journey, and what it means for you, and why it was important for you to make sure that Acolyte, your character, is reflective of that journey. Let us know how we can support you and what you're working on.
Well, you can always support me at concretecomics.com. When you support me, you support the family. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm actually jumping over to the Patreon exclusive chat for World Building Wednesdays, where I let the audience and the fans help me build things into the universe. Today, we're working on the government. So we're creating our own FBI, our own CIA, everything like that today. So that should be fun. Should be real fun, actually. And besides that, I got Acolyte 5. It's about to be released to the public. We got Comic Cons coming up. I know Carla got one, dropping soon. She's gonna be in DC. I'm gonna be in Philadelphia that same weekend at Philly Fan Expo. Jari and Lau will be doing an event this Saturday in Chicago, their first con. So shout out to them. And I think one more person is going. I can't remember who, but yeah, man, it's a very eventful May. I want to shout out to my mom. May is Lupus Awareness Month, so definitely want to shout out to my mom and all the lupus warriors out there that's getting it in. And yeah, be on the lookout for me to do more involving lupus awareness to represent my mom, and supporting getting kidney donors to support my father. So shout out to that, and thank you, Carla, for having me on.
Well, thank you, Lonzo. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
See ya.
All right. I don't even know how to get off this thing. Oh, there it is. All right. See you later.
So as you can see, Black hair representation in the comics still has a long way to go, but thanks to creatives such as the ones you just heard from, we are slowly moving into the right direction. Happy Juneteenth, everyone, and remember to celebrate our hair, Black hair in the comics, by supporting all the creatives you just saw over the past hour. Take care.